We're back for another lockdown Shorey, just local here in Auckland as we're not allowed to take our boat out. Fortunately it's great weather with offshore wind, so perfect for going for a Shorey along here. You'll see conditions are good, it's nice and sunny, good water clarity. Out into the middle of the bay we're greeted with heaps of bait fish. Big school of small juvenile kahawai and jack mackerel. Figured I'd better get some food for tonight for dinner. So I'm just going to take one of these jack mackerel and have them for sashimi tonight. And the next day I'll take one of these kahawai too. Especially the small kahawai, they make really good sashimi or raw fish. So I'll take one of these just to make sure we've definitely got something for dinner. Even though it's a late start, I've sort of tried to align the day with the tide, so in theory we should encounter more fish as the day progresses. So I'm just going to get all the small fish first, and then we'll target some bigger stuff later on. You'll see here there's a snake eel. I landed right next to him. He's just watching me, seeing what I'm doing. These snake eels can be really long if you pull them out of their holes. One of my favourite fish to eat are the goatfish. I eat them just pan fried or shallow fry them in oil. So I'm going to grab a couple of these for dinner tonight. I don't want them too big as they start getting a little bit more fishy taste to them, so I'll just take a couple of medium-sized ones. Although not exciting, I sort of try and organise my day or my dive this way and just get what I plan to have for dinner that night, and then maybe target some bigger fish later on as the tide improves or the day improves, to either keep in the freezer or have in the next few days. Loaded up, ready to go again. I've got my 100 carbon Viper gun, perfect for these sort of shallow diving or smaller fish. I've got a really light 6mm spear on my gun, so it's quick through the water and good for the smaller fish. I've come out to the shallow weed edge here. It's only maybe sort of 12 metres deep. There's not a huge amount going on. There's quite a few bait fish around, but same again. I'm just going to take this goatfish. I'm just getting to the bottom so I don't shoot my spear into the rock. It's important. So I've got my goatfish covered and there's not much going on the weed edge, so I head in a little bit shallower. I'm still a fair way offshore and it's quite flat, barren ground. You see here it's just sort of flat white rock. I'm maybe 200 metres offshore. I've let my dive buddy stay in the shallows and she's hunting snapper while I stay out wide here. Don't have anything really planned, but as I'm heading along I figured I'll just look for something that there's a slight rise on the bottom and then we'll make a ground bait. As I brought up in one of my shorter videos a week or so ago, first thing I do if I'm doing a ground bait, I'll just check the kinner and just see what condition they're in. There's no point in breaking up a whole heap of kinner that don't have much roe in them or don't look very good, because if that's the case you're probably less likely to have snapper and other fish come and feed on them. I actually like eating kinner, so I'm going to eat them at the same time. I've come across this slight rise on the bottom here. It's sort of an oasis in a giant area of sort of barren ground. This is exactly what we're going to look for when we're doing a ground bait. I'm just going to gather some kinners and I've found a spot that I want to put the kinner and break them up. Fortunately in this case there are quite a few kinner that are close by to the spot I want to put them. There's not a huge amount of cover here, but as I mentioned, you see there's good kelp here when I was diving in a sort of a barren white rock place. You want to look for these places because you'll get fish, even though you're not seeing them, they'll be hanging around this area. Same with crayfish too. If you're diving flat white rock and you find a good kelpy rock or a slight rise or something different in the bottom, it's a good place to either do a ground bait or spend some time looking. So I'm breaking those open with the big rock, and you'll see here once I'm done that I've placed it on a rock back from it. So I'm going to make myself a sort of points that I can navigate my way back to the ground bait since I'm a long way offshore. I put that rock closer to the ground bait and now I've anchored my float boat a fair way away from the ground bait. You don't want the snapper to see any of your floats, your float lines or anything like that. I've then made my way right up in shallow and Like I talked about with the goatfish, I just want to get a butterfish as well, because I like butterfish in curries, and they're quite good if you leave them in the fridge for maybe a night or two. I found a mob of butterfish, and the best way is to get right down on the bottom, lie in the kelp and let them sort of come in front of you. You see there's some small ones here, and there's a nice big one that comes in. Sort of take a long shot on it. Especially these popular shore diving areas, the butterfish can be a bit spooky, so make quick go of this one. First thing I do with all my fish is bleed them. I talk about this in the other videos too. It's important for the quality, and especially butterfish gut them. There's nothing worse than having a whole heap of butterfish guts through the boat or with your other fish. They'd end up heating up and making the other fish smell. I've left the ground bait for maybe 10 minutes or so and sort of found my way back to the float boat, and then I navigate my way back to where my ground bait is. You'll see I make an approach a fair way away from the ground bait, diving right to the bottom here, and I'm going to make my way along the bottom towards the rise. This is important as you'll get other fish that will be in the area that could alert the snapper or other fish on your ground bait. As I sneak through the kelp here, I can actually see the big snapper move its way down and towards the ground bait, eating the kinners. I'm just waiting for it to sort of cover itself up and not be able to see me, and then make a quick lunge. It's important to get a spear in him before it realises that I'm here. Fortunately, I can see the spears all the way through. With my thin spear and smaller gun, I've tried to put it in a soft place in the snapper to make sure it punches all the way through. Although not too bad of a shot, it is important with bigger snapper and other bigger fish to not fight them too hard and pull too hard, as they'll tear a big hole in them. So I'm just slowly playing it and just keeping it off the bottom until I tire it out and get it close to me. Like a kingfish, I'm going to get that tail between my legs and then get my hands in its gills to secure the fish, and then icky it. If ground baits are put in the correct place and using the correct burley, as well as having a correct approach, they're not very difficult and easy for most people to do. I'm loaded up again, and I've actually got a fair amount of fish now with my small fish from earlier and that good snapper. But I'm just going to hunt through the shallows and see maybe if I get one or two more small snapper. Maybe a combination of being lazy, but you see here my approach is not great. I'm sort of lazy and I'm too far down the ledge, and there's this reasonable snapper that's parked up, just mooching through the shallows. And certainly my reactions during winter are not as fast as that snapper's. So now, all excited from seeing that fish, I start getting a little bit more specific and a bit more careful with my hunting. Here's just a quick fast forward of me diving this small area. So you see there's lots of places the snapper could be sitting, and they're all quite shallow rocks. So I want to make sure not to expose myself too much, and see how I'm picking my angles, trying to use the sun as much as I can and sneak over these small rocks, because there could be a snapper anywhere. You notice I'm not holding the gun halfway up the barrel, I'm holding the handle and holding it right back. This is a bonus of having a nice light carbon gun. It makes it easier to maneuver through the water. Same again, after all that I get lazy again, and there's another good snapper parked up. I should have already dived on this, but same again, I can't quite close the distance. It's sort of a long shot, panic shot, and I miss. There's lots of snapper around, so it doesn't take long to find another good rock. I stay nice and low and look at the snapper, it's right there. I shoot it through the kelp before it spooks as it's from my hip, as I'm really, really close to the fish. My dive buddy's done well as well and picked up a few good eating fish, so I think that'll do us for the day. It's been a beautiful afternoon and a beautiful evening for a dive. Lots and lots of snapper on the coastline. We've sort of gone through the snooping as well as gone through ground baiting. If you find the right spots for those ground baits, you can give them a go, otherwise try and cover the ground and sneak over the rocks. Back at shore, I've got a reasonable catch in my mini float boat here. Managed to fit plenty of fish in here. I have my spear gun strapped onto the side there, easy enough, some water, easy to tow, and a good successful dive.